Hello, everyone. Welcome to Connections for Change. This initiative brings together some of our global alumni elite who will be sharing their tips and advice in navigating this global pandemic. My name is Rizwan, and it's my great pleasure to bring you Datuk Muhamad Umar Swift, the Chief Executive Officer of Bursa Malaysia, the Malaysian Stock Exchange. Datuk Umar graduated with a Bachelor of Economics from Monash University in 1985 and has more than 25 years of accumulated experience in banking and financial services. He has held senior executive positions in various companies, including the MAA Group, Malaysian Assurance Alliance, Gas Malaysia, and Maybank. Dato, thank you for joining us.
The pleasure is mine.
Fantastic. I'm going to take you back to when the coronavirus first emerged. It took us all by surprise. Since then, economies around the world have been struggling to cope and adapt. As a market, how do you think Malaysia has reacted, and how do we bounce back, if at all?
The key thing is when we look at bouncing back, we talk about the second half, but the key issue is always going to be how quickly. We're a trading nation. Our banking infrastructure is strong. We are strong. We have GLICs. We have a very deep capital market, but the key issue is going to be trade. What underpins it? The profit. We've seen a great deal of the market has rebounded in recent terms. It had a low in mid-March and has now rebounded again, and this is akin to what we're seeing in the world market. But what underpins that is growth and profit, and we've not seen the announcements, the full impact of, if you like, the COVID curtailment of business has not been actually seen in the financial statements of listed companies. We've seen higher unemployment rates, the dislocation of people, the inability to trade and move. And I think that's the key.
And most experts, I think, agree that COVID-19, this pandemic, could last for at least 2 years. What is your general strategic advice to the business community in preparing for a post-COVID-19 marketplace?
I think when we talk in terms of post-COVID, it's all about safety again. We will be living with COVID. There's been a great deal of debate vis-a-vis the lockdown. Lockdowns are about addressing infection rates, giving health facilities an opportunity to actually meet the demand and the needs. So as we move forward, we actually need to be mindful of how we do business going forward. So for today, we're Zooming. There'll be more video conferencing. There'll be less face-to-face. But will we be traveling again soon? Bearing in mind all the services around traveling, tourism, they've all been impacted. Every day we're reading about more hotels closing down, furloughs for staff, staff being laid off even, are based around services industry. So until people start consuming, we're going to see a very fundamental shift on winners and losers, if you like. Now, clearly, there are segments of the economy that have done very well. In healthcare, etc., we've seen that. Oil and gas is bouncing back, but it's about sustainability. I think there will be a new discussion by investors about sustainable investment. There was a lot of talk about ESG previously, but it has gained a new importance. But as we move into the new normal, we're very much going to have to focus on how we keep our families safe, our employees safe, our whole community safe. And how do we go about our business in managing the risk, the new risk, which is, of course, being brought about by the pandemic.
And how do you think our SMEs are coping? I mean, we've been talking about the industry in general, big sectors, big businesses, but small and medium enterprises, they seem to bear the brunt of the whole change that's happening right now. How do you think they'll be coping?
I think there have been numerous initiatives around the world and also in Malaysia about supporting SMEs. The key is to, if you like, liquidity. And how can we give SMEs liquidity? this is something that we're discussing at the exchange. Now, clearly, at the exchange, we're talking about listed corporations, but we also have, if you like, SMEs are the lifeblood of the economy, and they're also future corporations that come to the exchange. So we have, if you like, we have the debt moratorium for 6 months, but there's also a need to get fresh capital to these companies to weather the storm. So if you like, when we stopped CMCO, we had a period of some 8 weeks plus where we've not been trading. You don't immediately pick up where you stop. It's a gradual increase. Trade actually has its own momentum. So I was anecdotally talking to different players in different industries. Now, they can come back to work, but actually they don't have customers yet. The customers are not ready for new supplies. And so that whole process takes time. That requires you to be able to weather the storm. You need to be able to keep your skilled employees with you and so on. It's a very large challenge. So it's really about fresh capital and how can we provide that fresh capital. So, of course, there's various initiatives regarding SME support for loans, etc. And I think there's also a need for new capital, equity for SMEs to be able to go forward. And so I think that's one of the areas that we're quite interested in looking at is what can we at the exchange. We have, if you like, a smaller bourse, the LEAP market, and whether that LEAP market can play a role in marrying investors as well as investees to weather the storm. Now, more importantly, we, the exchange, we don't live in isolation. There are numerous ways of raising capital, be it debt, equity cloud funding, P2P, and so on. And I think these, if you like, fintech will have a more important role, and that's something that we're very mindful of in fulfilling the needs, which is the needs of SMEs to actually weather this storm.
Datuk, you spoke earlier about disruptions in supply and demand chains. I think the supply chains, right? How do you see this new normal impacting the ability of Malaysian companies to shore up foreign investment, given the ongoing disruptions?
I think that capital is seeking value. I think, in my mind, Malaysia has a very strong value proposition as a manufacturing base, as we'll see manufacturing being diversified across different logistic trains, which we've not seen previously. Perhaps it'll be a little less efficient, but it'll be more robust, getting back to that theme of sustainability. So sustainability, one of your business, sustainability of how you integrate with your community, sustainability, how you integrate with the wider market. And that's going to be a key theme, and that is what will attract new investment.
And I think technology also plays a very important role in all this. There's probably a lot of new technologies that, emerging technologies that markets around the world are trying to use to sort of make sure that the flow of goods and everything is going back and forth between countries, even though the borders are closed. Do you have any comments on that, Dato'?
I've been, of course, we're very interested in distributed ledger. And we have one eye on the future, if you like, and one eye on the present. And one of the areas that we've been looking at is advances in distributed ledger technology around freight and its application. Where technology for the sake of technology is not so useful. Yeah. What we're looking to do is how do you disrupt? What processes can you remove? How can you be more efficient? How do you make processes more robust? So the handoff, how many different handoffs do you have in a process? So I think this is what's going to actually be driving, and we're going to see new efficiencies coming out of this as we change the way we do business. And I think it's beginning to, clearly in healthcare, you've seen there's going to be a push for, of course, the vaccine, but that's also going to drive different forms. And immediately you see the need for PPE, face cover, et cetera. And so we've on the exchange, of course, we've seen different companies in different market segments responding to those needs. and they've gained support and capital accordingly. That being said, we're also going to be changing the way we do business, and I think it'll be less contact. So contactless business is going to be important, and companies that facilitate that have a role to play.
Mm-hmm. To end, what is your advice for young alumni just entering the workforce now and having to face a completely different reality than you have been used to?
Let's see. I went to the workforce when it was quite buoyant. In 1985, I graduated. I got my degree in '86. Australia was quite buoyant at that point in time, and I joined an accounting firm, and off we went to do our chartered. Shortly after that, Australia went into a recession, and it was dark times. But I think it is about looking. I've always had the philosophy of follow your interest. If you don't enjoy your job, it's not a job you should be doing. I mean, that's fundamental. We spend so much time doing the places where we work, doing what, and I think that's the key. Now, where will the work be in this new post-COVID-19 world? Well, clearly, medical research is an area of interest, epidemiology. So you have a medical theme. I think there's also going to be a logistics theme. And I think there'll be need for good advice, legal and accounting. But that, of course, is my bias because that's my background. And so I think it's going to be more niche plays. Now, the future there's a lot of debate about the future for office space and so on. Will office be smaller because there are more people working from home? Potentially. But on the other hand, perhaps offices will be larger because we have social distancing.
Right.
So there is an ebb and flow, if you like. But my strong advice is to do what you enjoy. Because if we don't enjoy it, we don't give our full heart to it. And if we don't give our full heart to something, then we're not achieving our best.
Thank you for that, Datuk. That's all the time we have for now. I just want to thank you again, Datuk, for taking your time to be with us today. I also would like to thank the alumni for sending in your questions, and hope to tune in with you again, Datuk, in the future.
Pleasure is always mine. Thank you.